More than.
Happiness and the City. This is Barbara, and it's absolutely wonderful to be here today with you. And I'm just focusing today on a very important topic, and that is of continuity. We have been going through a lot of problems with continuity, and sometimes it's a concept that is ignored in politics, but it is very important because continuity is connected with its opposite, which is discontinuity. And in order to create stability in a country, in the world, we have to have intelligent understanding of this concept of continuity and discontinuity, because a lot of the problems that we face today is because of ignorance on that topic. What happens in practice is that many laws are created that discontinue good things, and many laws are ignored that should be written to continue good things, good virtuous things. Ultimately, it is connected to the concept of a house. When we have a family house and it's well built, it continues from one generation to another generation. I come originally from Europe, and there are houses there that were built hundreds of years ago and still are very beautiful, habitable places. And I think that we have today a situation in which American government had to shut down because of disagreement over matters of what should be continued in its budget and should be discontinued. So what we have is ignorance on the image of continuity and discontinuity of the whole country. And on the other hand, we have the situation in which current financial disagreements over budget can actually destroy the country. So this is a very serious question that I finally decided to think about, and because it is of such great importance to all of us, it is a question that we should really ask God to help us with. We have next year 250 years anniversary of America's independence, and that created a timeline of great continuity. 250 years is a pretty good span for any country. And the uniqueness of America is that it is connected to continuity of England, and England then is connected to continuity of Roman Empire, and we have a complex situation in which those questions of continuity from before the revolution were never asked. I spent a lot of time, many years, at Harvard University. That is one of the places that continued that ancient tradition. When I was taking courses in the 90s there, it was a very powerful feeling in the spirit of the university about this ancient continuity of knowledge, of tradition, and that's part of why this place is so unique. And there are many other places that ignored continuity from the past that is good, that is virtuous, that should be passed on from generation to a generation. And when we are dealing today with matters of national and international importance connected with continuity, I think that we should create certain maps of importance of things that should be continued. And then I realized that there's one place that got discontinued in that passage between England and the United States of America, and what was discontinued was the very idea of a national house. Traditionally, the house is connected to the person that God favors or favored, and he grants his house, like we have House of Israel, and then that house is passed on from generation to generation, and of course it's upgraded to the current living generations. There are many houses that were created in Europe that continued till today, and there are many houses that were discontinued. For instance, we had in Russian Empire, House of Romanov, that was discontinued, and there was no replacement that would be visible, developed, and now we have horrible conflicts because USSR partly continued that idea of a house, though they didn't call it House of Romanov, they called it House of Lenin. But it did have a certain power of continuity. And then other leaders followed up with this, and they didn't really develop the idea of a house, but continued in a certain limited form what was there before. There are countries that lost that notion and the idea of a house. For instance, the country I was born, Poland, that had a huge tradition of a national house that started with the first prince, Mieszko I. It was connected to Roman Empire in Constantinople, and later on was also expanded to connect with Rome and papal countries that that developed after the original Roman Empire was shifted to Constantinople. And then something happened after it was discontinued from being part of royal families. The most prominent of those royal families, royal houses, was Jagiełło, House of Jagiełło, but then the last one was House of Poniatowski, but those were houses, and they were connected with names of leaders, presence of leaders, and the house meant a house for the whole nation, for the government. It was a concept higher than concept of a state. or a government. And we have difficulty understanding this today because our attention is so much focused on states that we don't understand the deeper aspects of national life. And that originally is connected to the idea of a house for the nation. So Israel, House of Israel, was not only just for Israel, son of Abraham, but for the entire people of Abraham's heritage that were called Jews by the Lord. So it was not only for the family of Israel, but for the whole nation. And we have difficulty in contemporary politics to even talk about it. For me, it's a new thing. I've never talked about it, never thought about it until this morning when I prayed to God and I asked how to help Americans go with deal with the sadness of what is happening to American government. And then this idea of a house was placed on my heart, and I started thinking about it in connection to the continuity of a government or a state. So this is something that we should develop in the context of America, and to understand that the root of homelessness of so many people here can be connected with a lack of presence of a national house. Of course, I'm willing to allow my name being used, Barbara Knoll, to create the beginning of that national house. I will ask God to do it because it has to have a name. So my name can be used for that. And I think that when we receive that blessing of a house for the entire continent of North America, we will also develop understanding of continuity in national political life that is higher than what is happening in the government. In other words, even in a time of discontinuity, that's called shutdown of a government, the national house continues national life and national security and national safety and national sense of well-being and future. So I think that we should really seriously develop those concepts, and we have great departments of political science and great minds that know a lot about politics, and America is a huge country, and 50 states with very diverse people, but we are very lucky. We have continuity of the English language, so we have the language that connects us all, though many people speak many languages here. And I think that we should develop that vision, concept, and presence of a national house. First of all, it will bring in the concept of housing to the forefront, to consider it as higher concept than concept of day-to-day government. And I think that this also will create clarity over who are residents of American house, who are permanent residents, who are intergenerational residents, who are temporary residents. So what I think is that when we have that understanding of a house for the nation as higher than the state or government, and we have so much faith in America. So obviously I'm asking God, Lord Adonai, to help us with this, to show us the way. And I think that when we have that development and it is put in our hearts and in our daily interactions and relationships, will not be so terrified about borders. Borders are very important, but there were hundreds of years in Europe that didn't have many borders. They were not that important. What was important were houses, family houses, houses of rulers, houses of people who dwelled on the land, and they were armed. Those houses were armed. They were not places that you could just come in and enter the house. So I think that our contemporary focus on borders is important, but it should have that higher level of security that comes from the idea of a house. Obviously, you can't easily trespass on a house. Houses have doors and have guards and have many members living there. When I was growing up in Gdansk, not very far, is a huge castle called Marborg, and that was a castle built a long time ago by Teutonic Knights. And during World War II, and it lasted, I think, 800 years. During World War II, Hitler destroyed it because I don't know if it was Hitler who destroyed it, but it was destroyed. Maybe it was the Red Army that destroyed it. It perished in the battle. And after World War II, Polish people rebuilt it as a sign of a house that housed Polish kings after Teutonic Knights left for hundreds of years. So it is a very powerful symbol of a house because first it housed Teutonic Knights, then it housed Polish kings. It was one of the houses of Polish kings. So I was thinking about this situation that we have today, that there are countries that never developed that concept of a national house that houses the governments, like the United States of America. But then there are also European countries that abandoned that notion. And now we have like European Union, but it's not a house, it's just a political structure dealing with financial relationships. So in some interesting ways, the rebuilding of the beautiful castle, Teutonic Castle, Jagiellonian Castle in Marburg, in my heart became a sign that we can follow Polish example and we can rebuild lost national houses of countries that abandoned that concept and focused just on politics. Many of us in America come from Europe and other countries that have that concept of a house. China has that concept, though it abandoned it under communism, And now Chinese government is also homeless. It doesn't understand the concept of a house, just like many other countries. So we can continue certain traditions from countries we come from, and develop the image, the structures, the concepts, the size, the understanding of a house that would house American government, and I think that would be a great continuity. One of the countries that never lost that concept of the house is Japan, of course. We all know that. And when I was studying Aikido years ago, the instructors just were telling me that that was my weakness, that lack of understanding and knowledge of house that would be higher than the government. At that time, I did not understand really the significance of it, but it's an ancient wisdom that now I attach a great importance to. So let's ask God that this particular time, when American nation has been dealing with all kinds of difficulties, that God will grant us that grace of American house. Maybe it can be under my name, Barbara Knoll, and that we will have a great discussion in the entire nation about its meaning, how it should be structured, and how it should carry continuity of our lives into the future, so that we don't fear discontinuities, we don't fear the dangers that we are dealing with right now. So as I ask God also to bless American government and bless all of us here connected to it, that this time it will be a miracle of a great mansion that would house American authorities at all levels, and that will help us know the virtue of things that should be continued without direct political pressures. That would be a great thing to have. And then, of course, there would be political things that concern many civil matters, and they can go through all the conversations and ways of working out agreements and dealing with matters of justice, but it would be all with knowledge of that higher level of living in a space called American house. And I asked God to show us vision of it, show me too, and that we'll be able to focus our eyes on how to develop it, how to talk about it, how to shape it. And I think that would be so important for young generations. And it would also be important for the whole world, because it would change the attention away from immediate profits more into the living ways of particular peoples. So at the highest level, it would be a peacemaker, because people would be focused on shielding their own houses rather than trying to take over other people's belongings and wealth. And in closing, I would say that the idea of a house that would house the governmental authority is also connected with financial security, because there are certain things, there's a certain wealth that is attached to the very presence of a house. And that wealth is then passed on from generation to generation. It cannot be traded off. It's not even subject to negotiations, because it's part of the continuity and strength of a house. And of course, it changes from generation to generation. But we should have that stability and foundation of American house and its wealth that cannot be spread all over the world, that really should be used to care for and nurture and nourish people that belong to it. So in this happy note, I believe that God heard our prayers, and that He will grant us this amazing gift of American house, and show us how to house American government in it.